This Washington podcast. My name is George Carmi. Let's get it started. Welcome everybody to the Full Press Washington podcast. I'm here with Rick Snider, WJFK 106.7 The Fan columnist. How you doing today, Rick?
Good. Yeah, that's a nice intro. Wish I had that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, I want to wish everyone a happy early Thanksgiving. I know this is a great time of year. Actually, it's my second favorite holiday right behind Christmas, just football and, it's kind of football and food. So it's a nice little relaxing way to kind of get it going for the, nice long weekend over here. So, it's a pleasure to have Rick. I've known Rick for a couple of years now. Earlier on in my career, I worked with Rick and Chris Russell. We actually were together in a little SI.com writing group. I always loved and admired Rick from afar because he's kind of a history buff like myself. He's a Washingtonian like myself, and he's a straight shooter. That's my favorite part about Rick. He doesn't put any buffers on his comments, which I really do appreciate and respect from him. It's something I got to grow into. So thank you for coming here, Rick.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. It's people say straight shooter. It's just when you get old, you don't care what you have to say anymore.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So, Rick, just to start off on a nice little hard-hitting question real quick. So, tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I'm sure you and your wife are probably cooking some food this weekend. What is the number one seed in regard to your Thanksgiving meal? Like, what's a number one side or maybe even main course of Thanksgiving, in your opinion?
That's a good question. I didn't get this size being picky, but, I always like pumpkin pie.
Okay.
Turkey, it's funny. When I was a kid long ago in the last century, you didn't get to eat turkey, but really Thanksgiving was about the only time you ever got it. Today, you can eat it every day of the year if you want.
That's
and
exactly
I think
right.
that dilutes it a little bit, because when we saw a turkey, that was once a year. Maybe it was just 4, I don't know. But it was back then, that's all you had. So nowadays it's like, okay, well, we had turkey, the other day or whatever. And it's not quite, the holiday on that. But I'm a big mashed potatoes and gravy guy and pie and, but very few things will I push away. I don't like cranberries.
Yeah.
With the ridges on the cans and all that stuff. I always thought that was kind of weird how people like that so much. Sweet potato pie I'm okay with and all that. But, it's a rare day. I usually cook in my house. So it's a rare day my wife does it. And I'm free to just, goof off, see the grandkids, watch TV, and not have to worry about anything.
That's really cool. Do you have any Snider traditions you guys do every year?
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm glad the team's not playing this Thanksgiving. What has it been, 3 out of 4 years or something?
Exactly right. Yeah, I've been hearing, I listen to John Keim and JP Finley. They finally get to enjoy and actually get to sit back and relax and eat this Thanksgiving. So I'm sure we're all kind of happy with that too. So speaking of the team, Rick, so I just kind of want to talk about them. We were left for dead a couple weeks ago. Washington was 2-6. They weren't looking too strong. And, basically, it just seemed like a lost year. And there were murmurs of Ron Rivera being fired, and they were basically, Taylor Heineke was a trash and all the different type of conversations going around here. But we have 2 impressive wins in a row. What do you attest to this turnaround? What's going on? Why do you think Washington is actually starting to stabilize a little bit? What's your opinion?
Yeah, it's been interesting. In 1998, they were 0-7 and a bad 0-7.
Mm-hmm.
They got busted by Minnesota like 40-10 or something the last game.
Mm-hmm.
And Norv Turner was so disgusted with him, he said, just go away for a week. The hell with this. I'll see y'all next week. And they came back and they went 6-3 the rest of the way, and the next year won the division.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that's going to quite happen, but you look at their schedule now. In front of them, Dallas has the only winning record among everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a total flip from the first half. So some of it, they just beat a couple. Well, they beat Tampa, which is a real team.
Mm-hmm.
And Carolina's a decent team. So these aren't cheap wins. And now the schedule gets even easier on there. I think some of it is Heineke. I think some of it may be in a weird way losing Chase Young and Sweat because the defense relied on them and they weren't getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
And now the rest of them stepping up more. And I think the secondary has done a very good job these 2 weeks. Rivera likes to talk about young players growing up. Well, maybe, but I don't think you should ditch the first half of the season every year to have them grow up.
100%. Yeah. Yeah,
Hang
exactly.
on them in OTAs and camps, mini camps and training camps, and maybe play people more in these preseason games that they seem to abandon, and
Hmm.
be more ready.
I
Grow
agree.
them earlier. I think that's been a mistake that he's made. And when you're 2-6, okay, you won last year because 7 wins won a division. Well, it's not going to do it this year. Dallas already has 7 wins,
Hmm.
but they could be 6-6, and then you play 5 division games. There is a seventh playoff seed,
Hmm.
so they got a puncher's chance of pulling this off again.
I agree with you, Rick. They're actually sitting at the 11th spot right now. I believe San Francisco, the Vikings, and the Eagles are in front of them, as well as the Carolina Panthers. But we have the head-to-head tiebreaker there. Um, the one thing I am kind of worried about is the Eagles have kind of a very soft schedule at the end of the year. They actually play the NFC East like we do. They play 5 of their 6 games are against the NFC East, and their one remaining game is against the Jets. So it's they kind of have a little cakewalk. So our Washington games versus the Eagle games will be very important. So, I definitely agree with you. I think over the past couple of years, it's kind of been the Washington way to kind of dig a big hole and then try to recover and kind of push through. This goes back to the RG3 year, Gibbs 2.0. I don't really know why this keeps happening, but I wish Washington would kind of start off fast. It doesn't really happen that way. So one thing I do want to touch upon is I really like your comment. I saw your 2-minute video clip, and everybody that's watching this, Rick puts these awesome 2-minute videos, little like kind of 2-minute his thoughts and his takes on the team. And he actually talked about chemistry. And he said, with Chase Young gone and Montez Sweat gone, the team is actually rising to the occasion. And I do want you to kind of touch on that a little bit, Rick. And I kind of agree with you. Like in my opinion, I think Montez Sweat and Chase Young, I think Jack Del Rio kind of relied on their athleticism a little bit too much and kind of thought that maybe they could create on their own. But now they're starting to play more sound, disciplined football. Is that kind of your thought behind the chemistry aspect, or what are you thinking there?
Yeah, in the off season, only one player didn't come to the camps, and yes, they were
Mhm.
voluntary. But I said, "Where's Chase Young?" And
Mhm.
they go, "Well, he's doing commercials, he's doing this and that." And I thought, seriously, you need to be here a few days off season. You're a team captain, and you're the only guy not here. Oh, we don't have to
Mhm.
worry about it. You can't criticize him. It's voluntary. I thought, no, man, he made a mistake here. He
Mhm.
had a great rookie year and thought he had it all figured out. The NFL will humble you in a moment because
Mhm.
those other teams spent the offseason looking at him.
I agree.
And, it's okay to show up at minicamp and say, I did my job. Yeah, but, the NFL is really a full time job. You can take a
Mhm.
few weeks off here and there, but you got to be ready to play. And I just thought it was a big mistake. And they're like, nobody will remember this in the fall. Well, yes, we are, kind of remembering this in the fall. I don't know if that's the problem, but it's not that he's not working hard enough this fall before he was injured, but he just didn't seem to have a plan B. And
I
they
agree.
figured out plan A. And after all these weeks, you got to get a plan B.
Mhm.
And so he's got to spend this next off season doing that, or
Mhm.
else he's just a talented player who doesn't, dominate. He just is a guy.
I agree.
I think that's a real shame if that's what happens to him. And this
Mhm.
team gave up a chance to draft a quarterback to get him.
I agree.
So, they need him to be the star that he's supposed to be.
Mhm.
But he's not going to play anymore this season, and I don't know if he'll be ready for the beginning of next year. It's an ACL. Sometimes it takes a year. We'll see. You can promise to rehab hard. I mean, I've seen this. I've been doing this 43 years. I've seen this over and over and over and over to
Mhm.
know what's the BS and what's the real part.
Yeah.
The reality is, I don't know that he makes it back for opening day, because
Mhm.
then they're going to be cautious with him. Because if you
Mhm.
screw it up, he's out another year. You
Yeah.
miss 2 years, your career is about done.
I agree.
So
I was gonna say that, Rick. I think he's gonna. I know it's way too early to say. We kind of get sensationalized here in the DC media, but I do think that he is at a crossroads next year, right? Like he had 1.5 sacks through 8 games this year. He looked like he didn't really have a plan B, like you kind of touched upon. So if he comes in next year and if he's having a subpar mediocre year again, there's going to be some whispers about where his career trajectory is going to be. I do think he's too big and too talented to be a average player. I do think he'll bounce back, but he does have to put in the work and get ready for next year because it is going to be an important year for him, I think.
yeah. One thing also about this defense, I think moving Landon Collins up more was a
Mhm.
big help because it filled a spot there, and it let Cameron Curl come on the field more too.
Mhm.
So it was a double move. It really worked out well. Maybe William Jackson's finally getting more comfortable in his role.
Mhm.
Fuller's starting to look better. So their secondary really is recharged them.
Mhm.
The line's doing okay
Mhm.
on there, but they still need a linebacker, and I hate saying that after you just drafted one in the first round.
Mhm.
But they need help more in the middle too. But things are looking more positive. I would say that. I mean, I thought they were going to be a 9 or an 8 win team this year. They may still pull that off. I'm
Mhm.
not quite sure. I think they're more like maybe a 7. But
I agree.
they make if they make the playoffs again with a losing record, I don't know that any NFL team has done that 2 years in a row.
I don't think so. I can't recall.
Nobody comes to mind. I remember lots of 7 and 9s, but
Mhm.
not 2 years in a row.
No,
So
no, it's just
it could
very
be
odd and
interesting.
so random. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it'll be
Yes.
an interesting case.
It'll be interesting for sure. It'll be interesting. So yeah, I do. At the beginning of the year, I projected Washington to finish off around 8 and 9 with my projection. I think a lot of people kind of bought in, like, hey, we were 7 and 9 last year. We're adding the right components this year. We're going to take a really big step forward. I did foresee a Cowboys resurgence with Dak Prescott coming back. So yeah, I think we're kind of where we're supposed to be right now. But these NFC East games are actually really engaging, really interesting, and that's where we want to be in December. So for many years, we've had some falling flat on our faces and no interest in December. So I'm happy to be here right now. So speaking of which, I think, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons why Washington is turning around is because of Taylor Heineke, right? I think Taylor Heineke has been playing. I've been really hard on him throughout the year. I kind of think of him as more of a kind of a Case Keenum kind of level quarterback. He's a bottom of the league starter, maybe more of a really high end backup quarterback, but I'm starting to believe. I don't know. You've been watching more football than me. Maybe you're more critical than I am, but I do think he has kind of, kind of put his name in the cup for next year, maybe kind of being, at least part of the quarterback room moving forward. What are your thoughts on Heineke? Are you impressed? Do you think this is more of like an aberration? Do you think can maintain this for the rest of the year? How do you feel about Heineke?
At first I thought he was really a number 2 and a spot starter, and certainly keep playing him so you have a good one because you're going to need one of those.
Mm-hmm.
This team especially seems to go through quarterbacks, but he has playing better. Tampa was the first time he ever saw a team for the second time,
Mm-hmm.
and what I think the real keys I want to watch in the last few weeks, how does he play the second time against Dallas and Philly? That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of weird that they're doing this, Dallas, Philly, Giants finish. That's the weirdest thing. But so not a lot of time to react. But I want to see how he does the second time around. Is it showing me growth? I think the game manager stuff they talked about early in the season got in his head and screwed him up. This guy's just a baller.
He is.
I've seen other quarterbacks like this. They're not good during practice week. Sorry. They're
Okay.
not, they're guys that got to just go live and be themselves out there. And that scares the hell out of coaches because they
It
want to
is.
control everything. But sometimes you got to let ballers be ballers. And I think he is one. I think if he progresses, he could be a good middle of the pack NFL quarterback, which means half the teams in the league would trade for him in a second.
Mm-hmm.
He's better than some guys. Some guys are just stink, and that's just the way they are.
That's
He's
true.
better than that, and
Yeah.
he has some upside. He's very smart. In practice, he's very analytical. So he doesn't always look fluid in practice because he's internalizing these plays
Mm-hmm.
and kind of going through it so that by the time he gets to the game, it's instinct and he can go
Mm-hmm.
play ball. That he threw 2 sidearm completions the other
I
day,
saw that. I
that's
saw
pretty
that.
funny, to watch that happen.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the best arm, but then you saw the 3 touchdowns he had
Yeah.
just last week. He wouldn't have made any of those passes in September. So
I agree.
what are we going to be seeing this kid in December, as he matures through it? And there's a chance he could be next year's starter. I do
I
think
agree.
that the owner wants to sell tickets and wants a first rounder.
I can see
But
that.
but I could see Taylor. Taylor's going to be in the league for a lot of years now if he's won what he's done this season.
I agree. And you and I have both been in Washington for a very long time, and the fan base falls in love, right? So I don't think Heineke is going to go away anytime soon. I think he definitely, he is under contract next year, first and foremost. But then second of all, I do think like I think he's going to start some games next year. That's kind of my declaration. I agree with you. I think Washington will probably maybe kick the tires on a couple of vets here or there, maybe acquire a first round pick. I think if it was up to me, I would keep Taylor Heineke as my veteran and then draft a quarterback to kind of develop behind Heineke and have him have a true quarterback, 1-2 battle and see how it goes. Heineke's it's only 8 games. I think he started 11 games in total for his entire career. So he hasn't even had a full season under his belt yet. So, 8 weeks is 2 months. I know like the NFL is a chapter book, right? We're on chapter 11 now. And, it feels so much longer than what it really is. But in real time, it's about 2-3 months. He's developing. So I am interested to see where he goes. One last question before we move on.
Yeah.
Are you interested in any of these like mid-level quarterbacks like Derek Carr or Marcus Mariota, Mitch Trubisky, or do you think Taylor Heineke is pretty much on par with them?
I think he's somewhat the same.
Okay.
So why spend a lot of money to go get them? He's won 4 games now as a pro here, at least.
Mm-hmm.
You know who won 5? Doug Williams.
Okay.
I thought Doug Williams was 5-9 as a Redskin.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Interesting. I know that.
3 of them were playoffs and a Super Bowl, but it's kind of funny how that goes. But
yeah,
he's as good as any of them. So why bother? If you want to go get a first rounder, okay. I don't want to see him muddled against the first rounder because we all know what'll happen.
Yep, going to be clamoring for Heineke week 3. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
but I think I'm willing to still give him the rest of the season, and then we judge after that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm with you there. So speaking of, kind of the climate of the team, you get to interact with the coaches a lot more than I do. What are your thoughts on the coaching staff? How do you feel about Ron Rivera? Obviously, I think you hinted on it on your YouTube channel earlier about how he kept the team together at 2-6. It was very easy to fall apart. Are you happy with Ron Rivera's 1.5-year tenure in Washington? And how do you feel about his offensive defensive coordinators and Scott Turner and Jack Del Rio?
I have to say I have 2 minds of him. As a person, I greatly admire what he did, especially last year with the cancer treatments. I mean, he was so exhausted. Some days he had to have help carrying him in the building. Okay?
Yeah.
Could have easily bagged it and said, listen, I got to worry about my health. I thought this is the craziest thing. But he fought through it. He's a tough guy. I mean, he's part of the 85 Bears.
Yeah.
And so I admire a lot of that about him. But as a coach, I've been disappointed, and he's talking about long-term plans, and you listen to him. Sometimes, like he had a press conference Monday, it was really insightful about different parts of this team. Because after a win, you can be more honest. After losses, you kind of, play games with words. I've been disappointed how they've handled some of the personnel, like Curtis Samuel and all these things. So in some respects, I think I'd rather see Ron become like team president, because you need a man of integrity to run this organization.
I agree.
But would he hire a coach that he would give free rein to? Probably not. So they're just going to have to go ahead and keep going. I haven't been thrilled with the assistants, but they're doing okay on this. And I've seen much worse shows than what we're looking at right now.
Agreed.
But there's some things he did, like in the game, like you win the coin toss, okay, against Carolina. You give them the ball first. No. You've got Cam just oozing energy. What's he do? He goes down, scores 7-0. I would have taken the ball first, like Cam, sit there for 10 minutes, cool down a little bit, and then let him come out. Things like that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I was just like, what? So, I'm not always happy about these things. But overall, I think he does okay. I do grades after the games. I
want to talk to you about that, actually. We got to talk about that. But go ahead.
Well, I know. And you and everybody else was like, why did you give him a C- or C for the last game?
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to hear this.
Well, because there were several things in that game that went wrong. And I'm like, what are you doing on that? So, we don't have enough time for my term paper to be read, but and they're flash grades, which means I don't usually explain myself on these things. They're gut feelings, and they could be wrong. I mean, it's a gut feeling right after the game, hit it, go, and then you move on. Then you learn some things and you go, okay, I would never follow that. But the way it goes, you want a quick grade, you get a quick grade. But it's still a work in progress. And he's still talking about, another 2 years or whatever. It's like listen, coaches got to coach. You can sit here and say things all day, but if as Robert E. Lee told his guy, you know, if you're done complaining, go take your guys to the field and let's go.
Okay.
At some point, you just have to stop that stuff and just go win games.
You do. I agree. I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Ron Rivera is a authentic, genuine person. I think he's a leader of men. I think he inspires people. I don't think he is elite in regard to that Reid's, Sean Payton, like cut cloth of like X's and O's quarterback or sorry coach. So maybe in the future, maybe that he's kind of like that bridge coach or bridge coach to GM to kind of bring over that young, ambitious offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator to take over the team in a couple of years. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's kind of pivot a little bit. So this week, basically, we started to see Logan Thomas and Curtis Samuel starting to kind of rev up a little bit, starting to see them get ready for this week. I don't know if you made it out to practice this week, Rick, but do you have any stock into Logan Thomas or Curtis Samuel? Do you think they're coming back this year? Should we put Curtis Samuel on the shelf for the season? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking Logan Thomas will be back this Monday against Seattle. He's been in practice, barring a setback, waking up in the morning. I think he's going to play, and that's a great thing for them. They could use him.
It is.
They've missed him in the red zone really a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And as Curtis Samuel, I don't know. I like to see him on the field before I believe it, because he's been close for like 3-4 weeks now, and yet groin injuries just. You can't necessarily do surgery on a groin injury, and they just take time, and it's just slow, to do this. I can't believe he'd had practically nothing of a season, from something like this. But they let him play a little bit, and it would cause a setback.
Yeah.
So if you might get in the game, and then the key will be what's up the next day. Is he going to do it? I mean, they definitely could use him, but I don't know. This team's doing okay on receivers.
I agree.
Target. That's not why they're losing games, because they don't have enough players. Bates has got something for them too, but Cam Sims is back healthy again, doing okay. Adam Humphries. There are times you're like, "Where's Adam Humphries?" And it's like, there he is, and then made 2 big plays.
Yeah, third down conversion. Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, wow, there he is, and I wish they play him more. I don't know why they don't. I think he's a nice player. He came in to be part of Ryan Fitzpatrick's crew, but that said, he's still out there to play ball. So, and I love DeAndre Carter. I mean, there's a guy that basically got no love for 7 years in the league and hung in there. What I liked about him from day one as a returner, catch the ball, run forward, no hesitation, just take it and go. And he's done great with that. But now he's really becoming a nice option on receiver. So he's a real find for them this year. Last year they found several guys like McKissick and all. They did real well for them. They were lacking that for a while this year, but they've done it again now and finding different guys.
I agree. So I was actually doing some research on that today too. Like I know the stigma or the narrative this year is that Washington kind of missed on their free agents with William Jackson and Curtis Samuel not necessarily contributing this year. But we have Charles Leno, and Curtis Samuel actually doing pretty well. So it's kind of a nice little balance to kind of it's kind of an average C, maybe free agent class this time. So let's kind of focus on this week. Start kind of winding down our little interview here. So Washington's taking on Seattle. They've lost 5 of 6. I believe they sit at 3-7 this year. Are you scared of Seattle? Are they still the same Seattle to you? Do you think Washington has a puncher's chance on Monday Night Football? What do you think about this game coming up, and what's the key to victory in your opinion for Washington versus Seattle this week?
Well, I've always been a big fan of the quarterback there, but man, the team is I think 3-8, and they just haven't done it. So at first I thought, well, they're not going to beat them. But the last couple of weeks watching Seattle too, I thought, Washington can win this game. And, it's a West Coast team coming to the East. I don't expect much of a crowd, so the energy-wise, because it's a Monday night game. People, got to go to work Tuesday. So, not going to be energy there for them. But, Russell Wilson's not done what we thought. They don't have that defense of old. And, Taylor's starting to score points a lot. So, I think Washington will beat them, and I don't think it'll be close, but I don't think it'll be a nail biter.
I agree. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting. This is the pivot point for me. If Washington can basically get this W on Monday, I think it's going to just change the whole narrative of the season in the course of the season. I think you've been around the team more than I have and around the team for years. I feel like just players get up if they feel like their season actually is competitive and they have a chance to make the playoffs and they're starting to get these primetime games and starting to be focused on more, they start kind of studying better during the week and be more focused. So I definitely see it's kind of trending that direction. One thing I found interesting though, earlier in the week, I talked to Scott Corbin, who is SI.com Seattle Seahawks reporter. And, I don't know how deep you dive in with the Seahawks, but, in the outside perspective, Russell Wilson's, elite, fantastic quarterback, DK Metcalf special, Tyler Lockett's pretty special. But I was talking to him and he was like, the Seattle's offense is in disarray. He said they have a new offensive coordinator, Sean Waldron. He said they took over this year after, I think it's Brian Schottenheimer is a previous offensive coordinator. And they thought there was going to be a lot of pre-snap motion and creativity, but he said schematically, it's a mess. And he said on a scale from 1 to 5, he basically has Sean Waldron likely being fired by the end of the year. So just something to kind of keep an eye on. I didn't realize Seattle's offense was that messy, but I was going to blame it on Geno Smith, but I guess it is more schematic than big picture over there. I guess go ahead.
For everybody.
Say it again.
Yeah. When you lose, there's room to blame. Ask Jason Garrett.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
I wish I had a severance package like these guys.
I know, that's ridiculous, right? Just go vacation for a couple months. Why not, right? It's pretty good over there. Last question before we kind of wrap it up. How do you feel about Monday Night Football games in general? Do you kind of do you think like they're just kind of a late night for you? You're not really too into them. How do you feel about the Monday Night Football games?
Oh, I hate the hell out of them. I mean, because I don't get to bed till 2, 3 in the morning or whatever it is sometimes. I mean, I've done enough of them. It's nice that, but Monday Night Football is not as big as Sunday Night Football now.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Sunday Night Football stole all the thunder away from it. Monday night used to be the big betting night because you lost in the weekend. People really looked at the Monday night game to try and get even. I mean, that's the truth of that.
Yeah.
And now they do it on the Sunday night game, and Monday's kind of an afterthought. And then you got Thursday too. It's kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
On these, so it's not the big deal that it once was.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not as playing. This isn't two Titans. It's going to be a snoozer of a ratings game.
Yeah, I agree.
When they were really good and they're playing really good teams, and it meant something for playoffs and all, and this kind of does in a small way. That's when it was a big deal. I got to see Howard Cosell up close years ago at RFK like that. That was a big deal. Now it's just not the same thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And my problems are nobody else's, but it takes me a couple of days to get back in rhythm after going to bed 2 or 3.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you there. All right, very last question when we're bringing it on home. So, do you think this year Washington's going to do one little final push to end the year, and who do you think's going to win the division in the NFC East?
Well, I think Dallas probably wins the division unless they just completely fall apart.
I agree.
So I think they can still make the wild card. That's what Rivera talked about the other day. That's still very much in play, especially that 7th one. They got a couple of tiebreakers over some other teams, like Carolina and Atlanta competing. Now you've got the tiebreaker on them. So I don't know. If I had to say right now, could they make the playoffs? I guess I'd give them a 55-45 positive chance to do it. I think it's very possible. I don't know if they'll do anything in the playoffs, but just getting there is cool. I'm the guy in the press corps that's covered a Super Bowl with this team, and I can tell you it's a lot of fun.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I think the last Super Bowl I was like 9 years old for the '92 Super Bowl. So definitely I want to see it in my adult lifetime. It'd be kind of nice, actually. It's been a long time.
Yeah, you're another one that says I grew up reading you. Great. It's the fat old ball guys that say that to me. I really hate when I hear that.
No.
It's been 30 years now since the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, I took it for granted my early years in the 80s. I helped cover a team and, become all that. And you just kind of thought it was something. Then Cook died and the music ended. And, man, it's just been a slog going these last 30 years. And this year, I've said the biggest sin they made was they were breaking the fans' hearts that were expecting something more. Now that they won a couple, that's football for you. You win a game, man, that week's good. And you lose a game, you want to hate them forever. I talked to a lot of people lately about, are you going to buy Washington football team gear for Christmas? Knowing that in January they may change the name.
Yeah.
really, why would you do that? Just wait till January. But
Agree.
collector's item, really? Is this going to be a collector's item for the football team care? I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
think
know.
so.
I guess, yes.
Now the playoffs. Think of this: make the playoffs again. They're 2 for 2 in the playoffs with Washington football team. You
Yeah.
want to go be the whatever they're going to be. I don't really know what they're going to be. I wish I could tell you, but
Yeah. Yeah.
a couple of names I really thought they were leaning toward. From what I've been told inside, it's not a Wolves
Okay.
variation because of copyright, trademark stuff.
Interesting.
And I thought Warriors, and Warriors was very much in contention for a while until they decided it's just abandoned the Indian thing completely.
Hmm.
Well, there's been Warriors since there's been people with sticks and stones, but
I
okay.
agree. I agree.
So I don't know what it is left, at this point. May stay the Washington football team. That would not shock me either. I've gotten used to it on that, but I just wonder why you would buy somebody this gear and then next month it's old stuff. It's vintage now.
I bought one hat. That's all I have for the Washington football team. It's just kind of hard. It's like I really like. I grew up watching the Washington Redskins. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I understand why they changed the name. So I'm not holding any grudges in regard to that. But you're right. We're kind of stuck in limbo with this Washington football team. One last thing: is there any name that sticks out to you? Do you actually like? Do you have a preference, like Commanders or Sentinels or the Belters, like we see for the 495? What are you thinking for? What are you thinking for the
Um,
name?
I guess if I got to pick the name, maybe I'd say Sentinels, like the
I like the
Arlington
Sentinels. I like
National
Sentinels.
Guards there. I like
Mm-hmm.
Sentinels. It's a military term. This is the nation's capital.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that would be a good one. I like that one.
I do like that
But
one.
Dan hadn't asked me my opinion yet. So
Okay.
uh,
It's giving
I
yourself a
think
number.
half the people will hate it.
Yeah.
Whatever the name is, half the crowd will hate it. The other half will try and muddle their way through it. And if
Mhm.
they start winning, things are fine. If they lose, everyone just hates it. So
I agree. I
it,
agree. I think it's a pivotal time. I think, with it's a very delicate balance, right? Washington has to announce the name. If the team starts winning and we make the playoffs, maybe they kinda drop the name early, like, at the end of this season, but if we completely bottom out and we're like, what, 3 and 14 or whatever it is, it's whatever, can't be, 4 and whatever, if we have a losing record at the end of the year, people won't care about the name, right? So I think, the window to actually kind of drop it would be the week before the Super Bowl, right after the Pro Bowl week. It's kind of caught in that media cycle, and hopefully it's a home run, and hopefully we aren't gonna, the name's being dragged in the mud. So we'll see how that goes. But Rick, we're gonna bring it home. I know I'm gonna give you some time to kind of enjoy your evening. Thank you for everything. It was nice catching up with you. You and I talk on Twitter all the time. So it's nice to actually talk to you in a video chat. So tell people where they can find you on social media. Do you have any projects coming up that you want to talk about and share with the group? The floor is yours.
well, I do have Rick Snider's Washington, which is on YouTube and Twitter, and 3.5 million people watched the first year. I expect five
Mhm.
million the second year.
That's
So like
awesome.
my whiteboard there, Mark Cuban taught me how to do that. You put it there, and the algorithm can't hear you say it and penalize you.
Okay,
But
exactly.
Thursday night I've got a special kind of show that people will laugh at. I just try to have fun. It's only 2 minutes, because that's what Twitter lets you do live, like that 2 minutes. But most people quit after 90 seconds. You people have no attention span out there at all anymore. So I do something quick twice a day, mostly, sometimes three, and it's been very well accepted. I didn't expect this as much, but after getting laid off so much with the pandemic, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. If it works, I'll stay in the biz. If it doesn't, I'm going to retire.
Mhm.
And people like the storytelling. It's kind of made me people's favorite uncle. And I used to be, I liked it better when I was feared around things like,
That's
crap, here
funny.
comes Rick. What story is he writing?
Yeah.
Now it's like, comes the nice old guy. I don't understand that as much, but people really do like it. So I can't be a jerk anymore. And people spot me all the time in public. I mean, I'm an overnight YouTube sensation after
Who would have
43
thought,
years.
Rick, right? Who would have thought that
Yeah,
happened, right? That's
really
funny.
weird. But
I think
it's been fun, to just connect with people. I've met a lot of people
mhm.
in the past year. So, matter of fact, I had people. I'm also a tour guide and
Yeah,
take people around Washington. And today was YouTube people from Chicago
that's awesome.
that saw me. So it's strange how it's worked, but I enjoy telling the stories. In the off season, we'll tell more stories, but we have some fun with things. We did a video on how to pick crabs because I got
I saw
tired of
that.
everybody hitting them with mallets. The things are dead. You don't have to hit it anymore. Those kind of things we fight about all the time. Food.
You're a big
I
Old
had a
Bay
recent health
advocate. I've noticed that
problem.
as well. I'm proud of that too. You're a Marylander. I appreciate. I'm a Marylander as well. So good job, Rick. I appreciate that. Old Bay all day.
Yeah, yeah. I recently had a health crisis, so I had to try cauliflower pizza, and that was the most watched video in quite a while. And cauliflower pizza is okay,
Yeah, I've had it
but
before. It's not my thing
not
either.
really.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I do. I eat a bunch of these. I tried cauliflower wings. No,
Nah.
I'm trying to stay alive. At this point. So if you see the show, it's on Twitter too.
Hmm.
Rick Snider's Washington. You can see it there. And I try to hit people with stuff here and there. And if don't watch it, John Kime will zing me with something. So yeah, it's
That's
always
great.
entertaining.
No, it's a brilliant idea. Like, I think you hit the nail on the head. In this generation, a 2-minute quick video is the way to kind of grab people's attention. So I like it, Rick, and I'm happy everything's working out well for you. So it was a pleasure to be on with YouTube sensation Rick Snider on the our Washington Football podcast today. One thing I want to kind of shout out for Rick, because I know he's kind of a humble guy. There's a great book called 100 Things Redskins Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die. It's a great book that I read. I'm sorry to embarrass you and put you on the spot, Rick, but I read it a couple years ago. Fantastic book. It's a great stocking stuffer. So definitely look for that on Amazon.com. So thanks again, Rick. I really appreciate you. And for everyone watching, have a great rest of the night. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay. Bye, everyone. Take care.